Let's start with the easy one to begin with. Bardstown, Kentucky, my old Kentucky home, State Park is offering a special tour of Federal Hill that focuses on Victorian mourning practices. So how do you mourn, somebody? What is the, tradition or the way that the Victorian era was named after Queen Victoria, and it was known as being sort of a very pish-posh society. It was, 1800s, 1900s. Whenever Queen Victoria was around. But she had all these rules and customs about how people are supposed to live and act and how they're supposed to behave and dress, and they're a very prudish society too. I think when I think of the Victorian era, I think of some old pictures of my ancestors, looking all black and white and creepy, not smiling in their wedding photos. That was the Victorian era. And so for the Victorian era, they're actually doing something, blast for the past or something, just to kind of show how they had mourning customs. That's what I was thinking of, customs. So some of the social customs of the Victorian period encouraged practices that publicly demonstrated the grief family members were experiencing after a death. I think for a proper mourning to take place, it could take a year. I know people that have, been taken off of this earth, the dearly departed, who it still hurts today when I think about them. The pain has lessened only because time has gone by, but it still hurts very much. And so the way that the customs, they included black draping over doorknobs and entries, so black drapings, mirrors, portraits of the deceased, just black everywhere. Other customs including stopping clocks at the time of the loved one's death, and other things. So my old Kentucky home, State Park, is doing a special tour of Federal Hill in Bardstown Road. Federal Hill is the historic home that is subject of the Kentucky State song, My Old Kentucky Home, which is like a Uncle Tom's plantation song, talking about how, the darkies were gay in the Kentucky plantations. It wasn't as bad as, say, Alabama's slavery, but I still don't think it's good. We're singing an old Negro spiritual. We probably should change that. Actually, I think it's minstrel too. I think My Old Kentucky Home was a minstrel show when white people would put on blackface and sort of, exaggerate the gesticulations of the slave culture. They're mocking the slaves for being in their, for acting how they acted in their servitude. People have to survive in different ways, and so, it could come out in a bizarre way. Anyways. My old Kentucky home is doing that, so that's fun, right? I kind of want to just go over these. There's a poisoning, Warren County Drug Court official. She was going to poison her husband with prescription pills. She went to get Opana, O-P-A-N-A, the powerful painkiller, to poison and kill her husband for good. She just got... Judy Reed, her case is still up, but Kimberly Vincent was charged with attempted murder because Judy Reed got Kimberly Vincent to try to kill him. And so Kimberly Vincent is going to jail for 10 years, but Judy Reed, the caseworker in the drug court, she was able to get her hands on prescription drugs, the legal prescription drugs, because she was a caseworker in the Warren County Drug Court. So again, the war on drugs just causes so much grief and so much, tragedy. It hasn't worked. You haven't got rid of the drugs. If anything, Kentuckians are just evolving to the next thing, right? You make one thing illegal, they'll find, meth, and then make meth illegal, then it becomes, I think it all starts with actually Oxycontin. Oxycontin is hillbilly heroin, and once there was lots of Oxycontin all over the place, everybody got addicted to it, and then once they cracked down on Oxycontin, they went to heroin, and then they cracked down on heroin, meth. I think meth is, meth is just an outlier, but meth is there, and then it goes to Oxycontin, and then Oxycontin got cracked down and went to heroin. They cracked down heroin, and now it's going to go to the next thing, whatever the next big thing is. Neurotics, maybe, Boxins, I don't know. But it's, it just seems like if you try to crack down on one drug, another one pops up in its place. So we haven't got rid of the drugs. The drug war has been a failure, and everywhere it's been implemented, and success has been found in the alternative, alternatives to the war on drugs. And there's only about 12 models where we've had alternative alternative systems of society that handles the drug epidemic better. So this is Sam Wright. He had said that Janet Stumbo sides with the criminals 60% of the time. He's just making shit up. He's pulling that out of his ass, and I think it has to do with dismissals. He's probably looking at the judge's dismissals and saying, oh, she didn't get justice for any of that. She could have got them to do one thing or another. A dismissal doesn't mean that she just says, bang the gavel and say, get out of here. Sometimes it could mean that, and that also could be that a person is innocent or there wasn't enough evidence. There is corruption in our public officials, so, to assume that a public official, especially one that goes around poisoning her own husband, is it that big of a shocker to think that a public official could, accuse somebody who is innocent? I think so. If they're willing to, murder their husband, then they'll probably, be willing to lie. And that's, you have to pay attention to that. You have to be an impartial judge. You can't just say public officials and your friends. The way that corruption works is that you help your friends and your family and you fuck everybody else over. So if you're a tribalist, if you only say this is my pack, this is my crew, and everybody else be damned, the best way, the best leader, even for a tribe, would be one that is principled, one that says that murder, anybody who takes someone else's life is in the wrong. And it's like, well, that's your family, that's your friends. Well, they shouldn't have been committing crime. Yeah, I want to look after my family and friends, but up to a point, I thought, they might have thought, well, I thought I knew you. Well, I thought I knew you. You going around killing people? That ain't how I roll. I don't want to be friends with a fucking serial killer. And so it takes a principled person to just say, across the board, it's, murder, rape, stealing, violence. Those are the four big evils out there. And if we should be able to agree on those. So it doesn't matter who you are, if you're stealing, if you're raping, if you're hitting, or if you're murdering other people, then you should be held to account for those obvious crimes, for those big, evil things, for those wicked deeds. So, he's passionate about fighting addiction through drug court. Sam Wright, I don't know, he seems to be desperate. I think he knows that he's losing, and so he's getting desperate, saying that Janet Stumbo sides with the criminals. He pulled it out of his ass. I think it probably was something to do with her dismissals, but that doesn't prove that she sides with the criminals. In fact, it might actually say that she is a fair judge, a fair, compassionate judge who doesn't go around ruining people's lives for frivolous and petty charges. So, something about State Senator Ray Jones is bought and paid for by the UMG, the Utility Management Group. He provides legal services to them for free. I don't know if he's running or what's going on with this. But, Ray Jones is bought and paid for by the UMG. Recently, Mercer High School student brings 2 tasers. So a Mercer County high school student brought 2 tasers to school on Monday, yesterday. That's nothing, right? That's a personal protection device. They didn't say that he pulled it out and they shocked anybody. He just had them. And really, why shouldn't students have, personal protection devices? It doesn't negate or stop a crime from happening, but a taser could prevent, a violent attack or a pickpocket or something. So it's just interesting. I mean, they know, I guess he knows or she knows that they're not supposed to bring any type of weapons. A week ago, a student took an inoperable gun to King Middle School, and the official said the student in that incident had no ill intent. Right? They just wanted to be like, hey, look, I can bring a gun. But this has actually been happening in Kentucky quite frequently. There's either been like bomb threats at the schools. People's had to close the school down. At Eastern Kentucky, they had some sort of threat that all the normies was going to get it or something. So Eastern Kentucky had to cancel a couple classes. There's 6 Northern Kentucky Greater Cincy schools who got bomb threats 6 days ago, Cincinnati.com. Western High School, the threat against Ballard High, it just keeps happening sort of over and over again. There's also kids who are bringing guns to school. So it seems like it's a gun-free safety zone, and I agree with that. I feel like, a police officer, a non-corrupt, not like the family resource officer in South Carolina beating the shit out of the kids, but, a security guard of some sort, one that will protect the students if there is a shooter, because they are vulnerable. They're just as vulnerable as anybody in a theater or a church, where shootings have happened, and they are kids. They have done nothing. They're innocent. And so unless we're willing to give children and the teachers, and everybody just carries a gun on them, which, I don't know. I think it's actually more worthy of consideration than what people think. But unless we're willing to do that, then it's going to be a gun-free zone, perhaps just the one police officer or a couple police officers, not ones that are internally repressing the students, but are there as a good example of what cops are supposed to be, to build that relationship between children and the police officers, to show them that they are there to protect them and to serve them, not the other way around, not to be scared of them, but, whatever. So, that's been a weird phenomenon that's been happening. I got a couple, just Google search here, and this is also, this isn't the only thing that has been happening with, sort of youngsters and guns and weapons and violence. So nobody should ever have to say that a 5-year-old shot and killed a 2-year-old. Nobody should ever have to say that. That just shouldn't happen. If you're a responsible gun owner, the 5-year-old shouldn't have been able to get a hold of the gun, and to leave them alone to where the 5-year-old could find a gun, pick it up, it's loaded, and shoot and take another person's life. But that happened twice. It happened 2 times in Kentucky. And nobody should ever have to say that once. So the fact that it's happened twice, and then the story, ugh. So here's an article. It says that the woman says that it's God's will. It gives me, it hurts my head to even sort of fathom people like this. These people make no sense to me. So, okay. What bothers me, there's several things that bother me with just the 5-year-old and the 2-year-old shooting. The 5-year-old is conscious. They are, they have become aware and they're conscious. So that means the 5-year-old will grow up remembering what he or she did. Now, if the 2-year-old had got a gun and shot somebody, it would seem more as just baby antics, just kind of not knowing, having no control over themselves. But you start to get consciousness, in your toddler years. By the time you're 5, I remember things when I was 5 and 6, it seemed like pretty clearly. So I would think that a 5-year-old would shoot a 2-year-old out of jealousy. They would shoot the baby as getting, pampered, and even you're wiping its butt and stuff. And now that the 5-year-old toddler has learned to talk and walk, now they have to take care of themselves. They don't get all the love. It's jealousy. And so this one, she gave him a gun. The mother gave her 5-year-old son a brand new, shiny, loaded .22 caliber rifle. Brand new. Here's your birthday present. She walks away. He picks the gun up and shoots his 2-year-old sister. So Mom was just outside long enough for her son to fatally shoot his sister, Caroline Sparks, with his new present. Kentucky State Police Trooper Billy Gregory said that the shooting has been ruled an accident. It's just one of those nightmares, a quick thing that happens when you turn your back, shrug your shoulders, who gives a shit, right? Now, there is the Paducah Sun I'm a little disappointed in, because they were not letting me watch all these articles. But there's one endangerment. John Mukillick, the 30-year-old, he was later indicted on a murder charge after the baby who spent 11 days in a coma was taken off life support and died. So, he's getting the book thrown at him, and it seems like, he's negligent, and he's agreed to a lesser charge of second-degree manslaughter. I don't know exactly what happened or why. It says he was arrested after visiting a friend. A visiting friend called 911, reported finding the child unresponsive in a bathtub full of water. So I don't know if he drowned or if it was an accident or what happened. But, he had to agree to second-degree manslaughter. So he's going to get a big sentence. And that actually just changed in Kentucky, that if there is a child who's abused and it causes their death, now it could be rolled a homicide. I don't know what they were rolling it before. But that's what this, this Carolyn Sparks is dead now. With a single shot. It has a child safety lock on it. And it seems like they're just saying it's not uncommon for a 5-year-old to get a gun. For a parent to give a 5-year-old a gun. And then the way that the mother, just the way she deals with the grief, Victorians were pretty prudish, but they at least dealt with their grief. The 2-year-old was an innocent victim, never did it. Caroline Sparks never did anything to anybody. And, to consider, I mentioned considering putting guns in kids' hands, not elementary school, not even middle school, but high school. If we're a society that, values, I think the First Amendment and the Second Amendment are really good amendments, then we should be used with responsible adults being, knowing how to use firearms. And the only way you can get, children to be responsible adults is to teach them how to be responsible, when they're younger. So I don't know if guns is the answer, but maybe personal protection devices. I don't see why they couldn't take a taser to school. Being a smart kid, I always felt that if I was getting beat up, I would have to just take the beating, because if you defended yourself, you would get suspended too. And I think that's a bad lesson for life. Bullies seem to do okay in life. It's the bullied who have a lot of issues. And, they never learn how to get their way. They're not cruel and mean and sadistic. So instead of, learning how to assert themselves or being, convincing, it's the bully who actually has, the problems, just as many problems, I would think. So I think it's really fucked up, actually, how she deals with this grief. She says that it's, little Caroline's in a better place, and it's God's will. It was her time to go. I just know she's in heaven right now, and she's in good hands with the Lord. If it takes a year to properly mourn somebody, and to mourn somebody isn't to forget about them or to say that, to think that they're in a better place, that 2-year-old is not in a better place. She's in a hole, rotten away. Never to be alive ever again. She's dead. And everything that she's going to be 2-year-old, she's going to be forever 2 years old. Caroline Sparks, whatever a baby represents to, society, that's all she'll be. She never got a chance. I don't know how many words. She might have only known a dozen words. 2-year-old, and now she's dead. And for her mother to sit there and just, it seems like she's shrugging her shoulders. Well, she's in a better place. She's in heaven. That it's God's will. It's almost like if you believe that she's in a better place, that could let you let go of it, have closure. She got a gunshot, right in the face, and she looks dead to us in the world, but she's actually in a better place. Well, I think that's really fucked up. I think it's so fucked up. First of all, you're not dealing with the grief yourself. You lost you should have, as a mother, you should have that natural bond. You should have loved that girl with all your heart, and you should cry nonstop, I would think, for a month, that had happened. But even more importantly, if that's your beliefs, I think it's not allowing you to deal and handle with your own grief. But if you're a mother and that's what you teach the 5-year-old, or you teach, the neighbors, or you're talking to other people, your sort of religious beliefs prevents other people's grief, or you being, empathetic to what they're going through. And so, I think religion can stop you from actually properly grieving and properly allowing other people to grieve. Yes, he's in a better place. Well, now what else is there to talk about? Maybe let's not give guns to 5-year-old kids. That seems to be an obvious one, right? Let's protect our kids. Let's make sure they're always supervised. But I mean, guns. You know, I don't know. I could see both of the gun argument, but I am, you know, I'm pro Second Amendment. But what was I going? Oh yeah. But I also know this, that a gun inside the house is 80% more likely to shoot the owner of that gun or someone else inside the house. And knowing that, having a family, I don't know. I would be conflicted about whether or not I would have a firearm inside the house. If I did have one, it would definitely be in a spot where none of my kids would know. It'd be locked up with a lock and key that only I would know where the lock is, where the key is, and where the whole thing is being hid. Like, I just feel like if you're a responsible adult and you're a responsible gun owner, then you should, you know, there's no reason for something like this to happen. And I would be tempted to file charges on the adult. That's fucking bullshit, you know. She's probably hitting them and abusing them, you know, in addition to all of it. And, you know, she should get charged with something. You know, a kid is dead and she was responsible for that kid. The kid, 2 years old. What could the kid have done to deserve that? I mean, you know, some people think the death penalty is totally wrong. So there's nothing that a person could do to deserve something like that. But she, you know, she hurt nobody. She was not a criminal. She didn't hurt anybody. She's just a baby. So I don't know. Bevin and Conway, they argued about something. I'm tired of them fucking arguing. There's they found, you know, some green. There's Solomon Sprouse, the mother and daughter. Were, you know, trying to raise cannabis. This is the Paducah Sun, which has a subscription. I can barely read the thing. But, you know, the war on drugs just keeps on going strong, just ruining people's lives day in, day out. Fascinating article about Matt Bevin by the Kentucky Colonel. Voter turnout rate. Adam Edelin wants everybody to know that there is an election coming up. And so I guess that's the last thing is the Kentucky tonight. But the Kentucky Colonel, they had, just wrote about how Matt Bevin was rude to the reporters. Media in Kentucky is embarrassing. We're going to have a 40% turnout rate, okay? 40%. So to think that Drew Curtis doesn't have a chance with the Young Masters campaign, they're pulling us at 13%, and we wound up getting 21%, 7 to 8 points off. So 11% is the highest poll that I've heard Matt Bevin was polling Drew Curtis at 11%. If he's off, you know, 7%, 8%, that's 17, 18%. 20% of the vote, now you have, you know, that's a substantial amount, 20%. You know, just add 13%, that's 33%. That splits the vote right open. If Drew Curtis could get 33% of the vote, of the 40% of the people that just decide to fucking go vote for whatever fucking reason, not because the media did a good job, because they don't. They don't talk about the emerging candidacies and do, you know, really good profiles, not only about the person's life, but about their policy positions. Because that's all that matters in the election is the person's policy. And, you know, if they, I don't know, if they, I don't even want to use an example, but their personal life should have very little to do with how they'll govern. Because you could have, you know, a really bad person who did heinous things get into office and pass a bunch of policies that stop anybody from ever being just like him. And if you have, you know, that would be a good leader, in fact. But that policies are all that matters. Policies are all that matters in an election. What are they going to do with health care? What are they going to do with education? What are they going to do with police brutality? Where are your candidates' positions on the issues that matter most to you? And whether or not you agree with those positions, that's all that matters. So, you know, if policy is all that matters and you're in favor of universal health care, you should vote for Jack Conway over Matt Bevin, because Matt Bevin is against universal health care. He's against Kentucky having universal health care. So that is an ideological position. I'm not making any judgments on anybody. I personally am in favor of health care, but if you are against health care, you should vote for Matt Bevin because that is his policy position. that the whole article is just that he's rude to reporters. Well, the media sucks, okay? Kentucky's media sucks. That's why we're going to have a low voter turnout rate. They don't do whole profiles of all the candidates. They aren't, informative. They don't make it interesting, and it's hard to get enthused, corrupt one or corrupt Tweedledum or Tweedledee. Which one, Coke or Pepsi, which corporation do we want ruling over us? We vote to give our power away every year. We're supposed to believe that democracy is what, and it does. It's the only power that we have, so if we're not even doing the only power that we have, I doubt you're utilizing any other power as a citizen. So the media is lazy and obnoxious, just like I got that from Al Franken. But they're lazy, and they're obnoxious. They just want to find something and just, sort of jump up and down on it, whether it's true, whether it's not, whether it's funny. Look at David Cameron and the whole, I join in a couple jokes and stuff, but I'm not the media. But supposedly the Prime Minister of England in a frat put his dick in a pig's mouth, a dead pig's mouth or something. Now, that was just a report. Someone wrote a book, wrote that sentence in their book, and now we're just making fun of David Cameron like he had done something like that. So that's maybe it's a reflection of us and our own personality. But they're lazy and obnoxious, and when people are being annoying, when they're trying to get you, when they're trying to, they can be just fucking blandly asking questions, blah, blah, blah. And supposedly he insulted Al Cross, and he insulted Joe Girth. And, Al Cross said he has an overwhelming confidence in his own intelligence. He believes he's the smartest person in the room. I don't think he believes any of that. I just think he's a smart person who's fighting and defending for what's his. And if you could tell, Joe, they said something about talking to Joe. He asked a question about early childhood education, and Bevin was like, look, I already talked to you about that. And everybody's like, oh, why'd you answer like that? Well, Joe Girth is a hit piece man. Like when he called and talked to me, it was clear that he wanted to do a hatchet hit piece on me, just, butcher me to pieces. He wasn't with a respectful tone. And a lot of these, guys have been at college educated, so they learn from the professors to have a sort of very, quiet, try to be objective is their idea, but their terms of objective is like pretend I'm not here while I record everything you say. I'll give you an example of a relationship with the media. I did this thing with Jeff Young in our campaign, against Jack Conway and the Democratic Party. I think it was in Radcliffe, Kentucky. And we went to, it was a small little gathering, small community center, maybe less than a dozen people showed up. And there was one reporter. And the one reporter just acted all highfalutin, high and mighty. And within, less than a minute, within 30 seconds, I basically figured out that I didn't like him. He wasn't going to take pictures of us. I was like, here, you want me to pose? And he's like, oh, I'm going to wait for things to happen. Things did happen. We put up a poster, put up a sign, we give a demonstration. And he didn't take a picture of any of that stuff. So he wasn't there to actually capture the essence of the room, to say what was going on. He wanted us to kiss his ass, but I felt like once, I got that vibe from him that my job as lieutenant governor was just to protect my candidate. And so ask him whatever you want to ask him, but I don't want to fucking talk to you. Fuck you. You want to be a stuck-up, pompous asshole? There's only, 8 people in the room, and I'm talking to you, and then you're like, oh, we'll just see what happens. The reporter, get the fuck out of here. And then he, Googled, he's like, there's not many articles written about you. How come people don't know anything about you? Because you all suck. That's why. The media is supposed to give us all the information, all the news that's fit to print, all the information that we need to be informed citizens. So Matt Bevin getting shitty with all these fucking reporters, I like it. It's cute that the Kentucky Chronicle put this out. There's like, there's illogical questions that aren't, have no continuity. But basically, he's just like, man, just chill the fuck out. I'm tired of the answering your all's condescending questions, and got rude with him after the debate. Look, he said what he needed to say. Why do you want to get, you got a deadline, you got the news cycle, so you want to get some sensational bullshit. Maybe you can get him cussing or, right? Pissed Matt Bevin off to a point where he's, clocking you all out. And that's a good news story. That would make that reporter happy if they could get him to that point. That's all they're doing, just They fawned over him, and now he's not